Okay, so there is supposedly a battle of forces in the Republican Party, folks. So that's another thing that we're going to talk about today, which is the Liz Cheney polarizing plank of the Republican Party, the moderate Republicans that want to advocate for, reasonable solutions, that sort of thing, and then the Marjorie Taylor Greene part of the Republican Party. Now, Liz Cheney is a daughter of Dick Cheney, horrible, horrific monster, no morality, nothing. I mean, everything that she's saying, appealing to those reasonable Democrats and reasonable Republicans in the middle, is bullshit. It doesn't fucking matter. She sold out her own lesbian sister for a political position, something that even heartless monster Dick Cheney didn't do, by the way. Remember, Dick Cheney literally didn't run for president because he was like, my daughter's a lesbian, and that's going to be really fucking terrible. It was one of the reasons, one of the many reasons why Dick Cheney didn't do it. And Liz Cheney was like, yeah, no, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to fucking throw her under the bus. Who gives a shit? So, And Dick Cheney should be rotting in prison. And Liz Cheney is a horrible monster as well. But she's been saying a lot of the right things about how Donald Trump is bad and he needs to be excised as an aberration from the Republican Party and blah, 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 blah. Things that appeal to the fucking liberals, right? And Chelsea Handler now wants to fuck her or something because they're fucking ghouls, all of them. And I personally believe that this infighting is bullshit for the most part. Liz Cheney is basically creating a comfortable out for the Republicans to say, look, we're not the Marjorie Taylor Greene Party. There's plenty of people that still are in support of me. I'm in a position of prominence in the Republican Party. So how could you say that? How could you say the Republicans are crazy? No, they're a big tent party, and that tent involves people like Liz Cheney, and it certainly involves people like Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney, still the number 3 Republican in the House. Congresswoman, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Great to be back with you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
So, as Mike Emanuel just reported, yesterday, your home state, Wyoming Republican Party, censured you and called for you to resign immediately, saying that you had betrayed the trust of Wyoming voters. Are you going to step down?
I'm not, Mike and Chris, sorry. And look, I think people all across Wyoming understand and recognize.
Matt Gaetz literally went to Wyoming, openly admitted that that was the first time he's ever been in Wyoming, to a massive crowd, and talked about how Liz Cheney should be primary. Okay? And people celebrated that. Mike Wallace? Why are people saying Mike Wallace? I said Matt Gaetz.
That our most important duty is to the Constitution. And as I've explained and will continue to explain to supporters all across the state and voters all across the state, the oath that I took to the Constitution compelled me to vote for impeachment, and it doesn't bend to partisanship. It doesn't bend to political pressure. It's the most important oath that we take. And so I will stand by that, and I will continue to fight for all of the issues that matter so much to us all across Wyoming.
They debated, your home state Republican Party, they debated for 11 minutes before deciding to censure you, the Congresswoman, the number 3 Republican in the House. What's that about?
Well, I think you have to read the language of the censure partly. I think, that people in the party are mistaken. They believe that BLM and Antifa were behind what happened here at the Capitol. That's just simply not the case. It's not true. And we're going to have a lot of work we have to do. People have been lied to. The extent to which President Trump, for months leading up to January 6th, spread the notion that the election had been stolen or that the election was rigged was a lie. And people need to understand that. We need to make sure that we as Republicans are the party of truth and that we're being honest about what.
GOP party massive split coming soon? You're wrong. It's not. It's not coming. You're absolutely incorrect. No, there is no massive split. They're all cucks. They're going to cuck themselves to the Matt Gaetzes of the party. Matt Gaetz, Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene are going to be the future of the party. They are going to be the moderates, and even more psychopathic individuals are going to be the more psychopathic individuals that these establishment Republicans say they need to stop and purge within the party. This is the Republican Party. This has always been the Republican Party. This will continue to be the Republican Party. Okay? And there is no greater representation of that than the fact that they were completely united in, with the exception of 11 people that voted along with the Democrats, in removing Marjorie Taylor Greene from the fucking education committee position that she was in. Like, so why do you think there's a split? This person herself voted against removing Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is everything that Liz Cheney is criticizing within the Republican Party.
What really did happen in 2020. So we actually have a chance to win in 2022 and win the White House back in 2024.
You know, this happened with the Tea Party, and now you have the Freedom Caucus in the House. And those Freedom Caucus people became more fringe, some of them, and the others became more moderate, supposedly, in comparison to the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And there's going to be the Q Caucus, basically. They'll have another name. Either they will join the Tea Party Caucus, which is the Freedom Caucus, or they will, you know, have their own fucking thing. But ultimately, like maybe they'll do a Trump caucus, but ultimately it's going to get crazier and crazier. More of those people are going to join the Republican Party. She was cucked to vote for MTG's committees. Yeah, like she ultimately did that, by the way. So that completely goes against her being like, we need to excise Donald Trump, and then turn around and vote for Marjorie Taylor Greene to remain? No. Like, anyway. Chad, you know one thing that can help minimum work wages a lot is unions? Yes, that's true. Oh, the guy who died, Ron Wright, by the way, we were going to talk about this. The Republican who died, the U.S. Congressman for Texas 6th District, died today or yesterday. And the day before he died, or I guess 2 days before he died, he tweeted this out. Democrats are choosing teachers' unions and special interests over the well-being of our students. The CDC says schools can safely reopen and proper precautions are taken. What are we taking? What are we waiting for? Malcolm, my old editor, not like YouTube editor, but copy editor, says, thank you for your well-considered position, Congressman. I look forward to seeing you follow. One of his relatives actually is in my chat. I know that shouts out to whoever Malcolm's, I think, cousin or something, nephew, who watches me. Thank you for your well-considered position, Congressman. I look forward to seeing you follow through and lead the effort in Congress to take on all those exaggerating the COVID threat. Yeah, he's great. I love Malcolm. No, he knows that the person was dead.
We have a little bit more sad news from the Capitol. We mentioned this at the top of the show. Texas Republican Congressman Wright, who had been battling lung cancer, died last night from health complications after being diagnosed with coronavirus. Wright announced that he contracted the virus on January 22nd and had been hospitalized for the past 2 weeks. He was first elected to Congress from the Dallas area in 2018. Before that, he served on the Arlington City Council and as Tarrant County tax assessor collector. Wright was 67 years old. He's survived by his wife, 3 children, and 9 grandchildren. Wright is the second elected member of Congress to die after contracting COVID-19, which has claimed the lives of more than 460,000 Americans. Louisiana Republican Congressman-elect Luke Latow died late last year from coronavirus complications just days before he was supposed to be sworn in. Our thoughts are with Congressman Wright's family and all of the other Americans who have lost loved ones over the course of the last days and weeks to this terrible virus.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.
Thoughts and prayers, dude. Okay, let's go back to the shit.
You know, there really, Congresswoman, are two questions here. One of which is the role of President Trump. That's going to be debated in the Senate this next week, but also the future of the Republican Party. In Washington this week, you survived a challenge to your position as the House Republican Conference chair, but there was fierce blowback to your decision to vote to impeach the president. Take a look at some of that.
She didn't just go vote her conscience on the day of the vote. She spoke ahead of time, 36 hours, put out a statement.
Why is it that America has such a disappointing Congress? Because in a lot of ways...
Seriously, because Matt Gaetz is a part of it. Like, actually. And Jim Jordan. I really do despise those people. They're such fucking freaks, dude. Matt Gaetz does something to me. It is very weird. He is a unique type of freak that really fucks me up. Like, I can't stand him. He is like every part of his personality, like just manifests. He's just oozing with like this grimy, sleazy fucking used car dealer energy, and it fucking sucks.
Liz Cheney is exactly like Congress. Deeply unpopular and owned by special interests.
Does it bother you that there was more open outrage among House Republicans to your vote to impeach the president, a vote of conscience, as you say, than to the years of misstatements by Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Look, I think that, first of all, with respect to Congresswoman Greene, we've all been very clear. The things that she has said don't have any place in our public discourse.
And also, there should be no repercussions.
And we, as
which is what I voted for.
Republican conference, should deal with that issue. We should have dealt with it. That's not something that the Democrats should be addressing on the floor of the House. We should have dealt with that. With respect to where we are as a party, I think that the vote in conference made very clear we are the party of Lincoln. We are not the party of QAnon or anti-Semitism or Holocaust deniers or white supremacy or conspiracy theories. That's not who we are. We believe in conservative principles and conservative values, and we believe in the Constitution. And the extent to which, if you think about the threats that the nation faces, and you think about what happened on January 6th, I talked to Officer Sicknick's mother this week, and I pledged to her, as I know many of my colleagues have, that we will not forget what happened on January 6th, and that the single greatest threat to our republic is a president who would put his own self-interest above the Constitution, above the national interest. You know, we've had a situation where President Trump claimed for months that the election was stolen and then apparently set about to do everything he could to steal it himself. And that ended up in an attack on the Capitol, 5 people killed that day. That's the kind of attack that can never happen again. Our institutions held, but we all have an obligation to make sure that they continue to do so and don't look past what happened on January 6th. It was, you know, just over a month ago.
I just want to ask you one more question about January 6th. When you voted to impeach the president, you said this. He, quote, summoned this mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack. Everything that followed was his doing. There has never been a greater betrayal by a president of the United States of his office and his oath to the Constitution. Congresswoman, one of the things you certainly are is a straight talker. Would you vote to convict President Trump of incitement of insurrection?
If I were in the Senate, I would obviously listen to the evidence. I think that that's the role the Senate has as jurors. I would also point out, though, Chris, that the Senate trial is a snapshot. There is a massive criminal investigation underway. There will be a massive criminal investigation of everything that happened on January 6th and in the days before. People will want to know exactly what the president was doing. They will want to know, for example, whether the tweet that he sent out calling Vice President Pence a coward while the attack was underway, whether that tweet, for for example, was a premeditated effort to provoke violence. There are a lot of questions that have to be answered, and there will be many, many criminal investigations looking at every aspect of this, at everyone who was involved, as there should be. But I stand firmly by my statement. We've never seen that kind of an assault by a president of the United States on another branch of government, and that can never happen again.
So just to press that, if you were in the Senate, would you vote to convict?
If I were in the Senate, I would listen to the testimony. I would listen to the evidence. If you're a senator, you have a responsibility to be a juror, and I think that's very important. But I obviously believe and did then that what we already know is enough for his impeachment. What we already know does constitute the gravest violation of his oath of office by any president in the history of the country. And this is not something that we can simply look past or pretend didn't happen or try to move on. We've got to make sure this never happens again.
I want to pick up on because you criticized, at the very beginning, you criticized Democrats for voting to strip Marjorie Taylor Greene of all of her committees. After the House voted this week to remove her from those committees, you issued a statement and you said this: Speaker Pelosi and the Democrat majority have no business determining which Republicans sit on committees.
She's basically just going to say, like, listen. She's basically going to say, I think that this should be handled internally by Republicans. It should not be left up to Democrats. That sets a negative or a horrible precedent, one that could be abused even by Republicans against Democrats in the future, blah, 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 blah. It's just because you have no backbone, and that's the real reason.
Committees, but Congresswoman, your GOP caucus...
Because the Republicans literally, when left to their own devices, the only people that were on the verge of punishment within the Republican Party was Liz Cheney, not Marjorie Taylor fucking Greene. And not only that, but at least behind closed doors, they defended Liz Cheney, okay, in a secret vote, but they very publicly supported Marjorie Taylor Greene. So do with that information what you will.
Debated this issue and ended up giving Congresswoman Greene a standing ovation. So can you really blame Democrats for moving to act when the House Republican caucus didn't?
We should have, Chris. This is exactly the kind of issue that we should address inside of our conference. If you get into a situation where...
But you didn't.
Whoever has the majority in the House decides who sits on committees from both parties, you might as well not have anybody in the minority on any committees. So it should not have gotten to the point that it did. I don't believe that the Democrats have any business determining who from the Republicans sits on committees, but we should have dealt with it ourselves. And I think it's very important that we're absolutely clear that those views and those beliefs do not have any place in our public discourse. We'll want to see action now from Congresswoman Greene, that backs up the kinds of words that we've seen over the last few days and the kinds of apologies. But we have to be very clear that's not who we are as a party.
I mean, that, of course, is the question, is whether it is who you are as a party or not, because all of this gets to where the GOP is. Here was Congresswoman Greene's defense on the House floor this week. Take a look.
I never said any of these things since I have been elected for Congress. These were words of the past, and these things do not represent me. You see, school shootings are absolutely real. I also want to tell you 9/11 absolutely happened.
You say that her opinions have, your words, no place in the party, but she said this week that she raised $330,000 in 48 hours and that President Trump supports her. And I want to remind you that just the week before last, your House Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy, met with Mr. Trump at Mar-a-Lago and said the former president will campaign for Republicans in the 2022 elections. So the question is this still the party of Donald Trump, and does Marjorie Taylor Greene still hold a solid place in that party?
Chris, we're the party of Abraham Lincoln. We're the party of Ronald Reagan. We have to really take a hard look at who
the big tent, okay? First of all, fuck Ronald Reagan. Rest in piss, you fucking bitch. But also, we're the party of Abraham Lincoln. But, you know, we're also the party of Ronald Reagan, and we're also the party of Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's what the Republican Party is.
We are and what we stand for, what we believe in. I think when you look at both his actions leading up to what happened on January 6th, the fact that he was impeached in a bipartisan fashion, the fact that he lost the presidency.
You're also the party of Dick Cheney. You know, your dad, who is a horrific monster and a bloodthirsty war criminal.
The fact that we lost the Senate, we have to be in a position where we can say we stand for principles, we stand for ideals. Somebody who has provoked an attack on the United States Capitol to prevent the counting of electoral votes, which resulted in 5 people dying, who refused to stand up immediately when he was asked and stop the violence.
It's wild that this is the bare minimum, and yet Republicans have still found a way to like turn her into a martyr for the Democrats. Like, what she's doing here is literally the fucking bare minimum, okay? It's actually good for the future of the Republican Party so they can normalize. That's the reason why the Democrats have given the Republican Party this olive branch to be like, hey, just fucking say Donald Trump is bad so we can go back to business as usual and act like Ted Cruz is very different than Donald Trump, please. Okay? And the Republicans are like, no, we're not going to fucking normalize. No, we're freaks. This is us. That's the Republican Party. It's like, no, fuck you. We're fucking crazy.
That is a person who does not have a role as a leader of our party going forward. We have to make sure that we are able to convey to the American voters we are the party of responsibility, we are the party of truth, that we actually can be.
Yeah, okay, I can't listen. It's already done. Yellen's